Hello and welcome everybody to the Wealthy Wellbeing Podcast, where we discuss all things health, fitness, real estate, and entrepreneurship. My guest today is Heather Kiddoo. We actually met a year ago, not even real estate related. She was my gym's nutrition coaching business mentor for a little while. I think it was probably 6 months. And then, stumbled across her name in Sub 2, in the Sub 2 community, and kind of reconnected in that way. So Heather, welcome to the podcast. Thank you so much for jumping on with me today.
Yeah, thanks. I'm excited to be here. I'll never forget when I saw your name in the Sub 2 comments. I was like, wait, Zach? It was so funny. I couldn't believe it.
Yeah, it's such a small world, and you would never expect to, we once a month we'd hop on a call of a group in our team, and it's just like after the 6 months it's like maybe we'll come back around in nutrition stuff, and then you pop in there and real estate, completely two different fields, but related in some ways, and we'll get into that. But it's just kind of funny who you end up running back into, and nice to actually meet you in person at Squad Up too.
I know we talked on the Zoom for so long about nutrition, once a month for 6 months, and then I actually get to meet you in person. So that was great. Definitely.
Yeah, awesome. So obviously I know you a little bit. So why don't you let everybody know kind of your background, your journey through health, fitness, in real estate now. So, just give us a little bit more information on who you are.
Yeah, sure. So I started off in my fitness journey as a personal trainer for a long time. I managed a dental office and I worked in the dental field, and I'd always been, ever since a kid, running at the gym in school and getting there early and using the weight room because I didn't have one at home. And even then into my adult years, I would join the gym and exercise and lift weights. And I found this picture that I wanted to look like in a magazine. I think it was called Sweat RX. And it was this girl with ripped abs and biceps. And I was at this point, I was in my 20s and I'm like, I want to look like her. And so I took that picture to a local Gold's Gym near my house, and I walked into the front and I'm like, I want to look like this girl. What do I need to do? And they just looked at me and I'm like, no, I'm serious. And they're like, okay. So they took me back to the personal training sales office. I hired a personal trainer, and I would say a year later, I looked like that girl. And I was like, yes.
Awesome.
And so that's kind of what got me into wanting to actually help other people with fitness. So I slowly, I became a personal trainer. I got certified, went through that process, and then I started working for Gold's Gym actually because they had a coach or a trainer that had to move because her husband had a job and they got transferred. And so I took a lot of her clients over, and they were older clientele, and they were awesome, and I kept them for years. And so I slowly transitioned from the dental space into being a full-time personal trainer. And about that time, CrossFit started to be prominent, right? Everybody was talking about it. And I'm like, man, it's so dangerous. Everybody's, you're going to get hurt. And, the bloody hands from the pull-ups. And that was what was prominent and what you were seeing. And I was like, oh, it can't be that dangerous, right? So all my older clients who are retired, they go south for the winter, right? And so I had a lot of extra time on my hand. I'm like, I'm going to go try CrossFit. So I found a local CrossFit gym, and I took their on-ramp, which is some personal training sessions to learn the movements before you're just thrown into a group class. And I was completely hooked on CrossFit at that point. And I'm like, how am I going to find the time to be doing CrossFit all the time when I have these other clients? Long story short, I joined the CrossFit gym. I got my husband a membership for his birthday. We both joined together. I got him hooked. And I began just hanging out at that gym all the time. And I saw they had a lot of downtime between classes. And I'm like, I could be a personal trainer here. I could see if my personal training clients wanted to come here. I could lease some space and leave the big Globo gym space, right? Because I wasn't super fond of it. A lot of my clients, we didn't use the machines. We did a lot of functional stuff, right? So I approached the gym owner and I said, hey, I have this idea. And they're like, oh, well, it's so great that you approached us because we actually want to sell the gym. And we thought of you. And I'm like, you're kidding. And so, I went in there with kind of asking for an opportunity to be a coach. And and to bring my clients there to pay them rent. And they had the idea of this meeting to be like a sales type meeting. And in there, I got my CrossFit level 1, and I was just really bought in. And so I ended up buying the gym, and that's kind of what got me started on CrossFit and being a gym owner. And man, that's been a journey, right? And so throughout that space, I started a nutrition program. I began working for a dietitian in addition to being a gym owner, and definitely helped a lot of people change their lives through fitness and nutrition, which was the goal that I had, when I set out to do that. And so that's been really rewarding in that sense. Alternatively, being a gym owner was extremely hard, right? Long hours. Our town isn't the biggest town. And I think at the time there were about 8 CrossFit gyms, all within 3 to 8 miles of where I was at, that all opened after I purchased my gym. And so, it was a space where I was spending a lot of time and the financial reward wasn't there. And in addition, I have children, right? And so I was looking at this as, is this something that I want them to grow up and be a gym owner? Do I want them to do that? You always want your kids to carry off in your footsteps. And I wanted to be able to provide them an opportunity for something should they want to take part in it. And I didn't at that time want them to be a gym owner. So I'm like, you know what? Obviously I wanted them to work out, and everybody in the family does, right? They do CrossFit and lifting and all that. But I decided last year that I was going to sell the gym and get into real estate investing. And so that's the kind of transition that I'm in now, and is what ultimately brought me to this space. So I started watching Pace Morby. I joined the Bigger Pockets boot camp that he was putting on with Bigger Pockets. And that's where I met Molly Tennant and she developed top tier TC. So this whole thing kind of happened out of my desire to start a family business that my kids can be a part of when they graduate from college, and they have something that they're excited to be. And there's so many different avenues and ways to be a part of real estate. Whereas being a gym owner, there's just kind of one, right? The ultimate is gym ownership. Real estate, you can be a private money lender, you can be a wholesaler, you can be a flip. I mean, there's just so many different ways, right? And so after I started getting into Pace Morby and creative finance, I ended up selling my gym on creative finance to the head coach that I had hired a couple years before. And so that was like my first, jump into it. And just kind of ironic and super exciting. And so here we are. I'm getting a check every month for my gym. It's just been a year. I still work out there. I still do their social media and their bookkeeping, payroll, and all that. So I'm still part of it. I just don't own it anymore. And now I've dove into real estate.
Awesome. I love that. And that's a great background on kind of everything that we want to cover, right? The parallels between health, fitness, and then business, right? And you combine that. You took your passion for health and fitness, turned it into a business or bought a business doing that. And then now you're shifting that business and going into, another different business, right? Maybe one that's better for where you're at and where you see yourself going.
Yeah.
And I love all that. And so you made a lot of big jumps, right? A lot of kind of like scary jumps, right? Some people might hear all the things you do and like, man, if I could get the courage to do one of those things, I would be super happy and super proud of myself. So what do you think gave you the courage, the confidence to go, I'm going to buy this gym. Yeah, let's do it. Or I'm going to sell this gym and jump into real estate. Like, what gives you the confidence that you can go and do these things?
Yeah. I think it's, I have a lot of self-confidence. One, I feel like if I'm going to fail at something, I'm going to find a way to pick myself back up again. And I honestly don't know where that comes from. It's just something that I have. And then another thing is that when I see somebody else doing something, I know that I can do it too. And the funny story about owning the gym is we live in this small town here it's called the Quad Cities. It's like Bettendorf, Moline, Smoley. It's in the Midwest, right? And the high school that I graduated from, my graduating class was 89 people. And so that kind of gives you an idea of how many people are out here. Well, somebody opened a CrossFit gym down the road from us 3 months after my husband told me, no, we're not opening a gym here. Like, we're not doing that. And I'm like, if we don't do it, somebody else is going to do it. He's like, we're not doing it. I'm like, okay, somebody else did it. And so I'm like, all right. So then ironically, a few months after that, I got the opportunity to buy this gym. So honestly, it wasn't even really a discussion. I just came home and said, I'm buying a gym. Well, ready. And he's like, I'm on board. I see what you're saying. Like somebody else, like there's opportunity there, right? Somebody else is going to do it. And so there's something to be said for being prepared and to have cash on hand and to being financially savvy and to be prepared for certain aspects of what you're going to do. And I was semi-prepared. I wasn't all the way prepared. There was many things that surprised me that I wasn't aware for. But the self-confidence just came from within. And I was like, if somebody else can do it, I can do it. And if I don't do it, there's going to be somebody else that does. And so why are they more confident and more able than I am? They're probably not. They're just willing to take the risk. So that's where it is.
Right. It's the balance of taking the risk and knowing you're going to trust yourself to get through it, and not being overconfident where like you're going to go too far and like things are raining and there's fire all around you and you're like, I can still do it. I can still do it. And just having that confidence of moving forward and trusting yourself is huge. And I think a lot of people don't trust themselves enough and they hesitate. And then, like you said, somebody comes in and they do it. And then now you're sitting there like, oh man, I should have done that and taken that risk and trusted myself because I know what I'm doing.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think, I also looked at my background and I was like, well, am I going to be able to run this gym? Like I'm going to need employees. It has employees. Am I going to keep those employees? Well, I had run a dental office for almost 15 years. I hired people. I fired people. I did payroll. I did accounting. So as soon as I took over the gym and I had to set up payroll accounts and tax accounts and all that stuff, I knew how to do that. And so that was one of the most scariest parts for me because I knew how to coach people. I knew how to run a class. You know what I mean? Like I knew how to train people and to make people fit and teach them how to eat right. It was the business part that I was a little bit apprehensive about, but then I'm like, well, you have this past experience. Yeah, it wasn't a gym, but it can't be that much different,
Yeah, and I think it's super important to recognize the skills that you gained from other companies or just from other experiences and leveraging that and moving forward. And sometimes the hard part is just recognizing what those skills are and figuring out what those skills are. And the second you can do that, all right, how can I use these skills, leverage them to build whatever I want to build, and then find the other people that I need to fill in any gaps that I might have, which it sounds like you did if you ended up selling it to, your, head coach or whoever you sold it to. So that's great.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, going into, health and fitness, diving a little bit more. So what does health and fitness for you look like right now? Like, what are you doing? You talk CrossFit. I'm sure you're still doing CrossFit to some extent. Like, what does that look like?
Yeah, I still love CrossFit. I'm not going to lie. My Instagram handle has CrossFit and then a heart. Even though I'm not a CrossFit gym owner, there's just something about a CrossFit workout that gives you a feeling of defeat and accomplishment at the same time that going into just a normal gym, I guess you would say, and lifting weights doesn't. And I'm reminded of that because I do have a goal personally to be, to add a bunch more muscle to my body. And so I've reduced my CrossFit workouts. I mean, you can appreciate this. There's probably a lot of people in the audience that might not know what I'm talking about, but muscle hypertrophy, getting bigger, getting stronger, you've got to get in more reps, right? That sometimes CrossFit doesn't allow for. So I've reduced the number of days that I do CrossFit to increase those weightlifting days. And as much as I love weightlifting, it's not quote unquote getting me in shape. It's providing aesthetic value, but it's not, endurance and, your cardiovascular. It doesn't provide those same things as CrossFit does. And so that feeling that you get when you have just like a great workout from CrossFit, nothing will ever surpass that.
Yeah, 100%. And, kind of having the people in the class with you hitting the workout hard and there's some competitive level, right? Your friends in the class that you can compete with and that you can stay with, and everything else is just fun, right? That's the best part of it. Like you said, just being at the end of it, like it's 10, 15, maybe 20 minutes of work and you're done and you're like, that was tough, but I'm so glad that I did it and got through it.
Yeah. And you put the, the head on the nail. It's like all the people around you, pushing you. Like when you show up to lift weights, it's usually by yourself and you're just kind of got your headphones in. And I sit and listen to myself, talk to myself all day long. Like sometimes I just want to talk to other people, and so that workout, even if you're not super conversational, they're all there doing the workout with you. And it's just like, it's motivating.
100%. So with your, goal of, putting on a little more muscle mass and do that, what kind of habits or actions are you focusing on, on a daily, weekly basis to kind of hit that goal?
Yeah, I mean, so I work out to some extent every single day, right? I don't do intense workouts every single day because that's not great for you, but I'll do CrossFit twice a week and I will lift weights 3 times a week, just lifting weights. And then I'll do like a heavy running day and I'll walk with a weighted vest like twice a week. And I think it all just comes down to the fact that, people are like, I'm so busy. I can't work out. I can't do this. Well, in my mind, if you rest, you rust, right? I mean, there's so many studies that show the more muscle mass you have, the longer you're going to live, the stronger your frame is. And I got a goal to live to like 125. So I need to keep moving, right? So that's kind of what drives me is and when you sit around, I have so many people say to me, when I sit, I'm so sore. I'm like, it's because your body's not meant to sit, right? Just get out and go for a walk. And that's what I encourage people to do. If they say they don't have time or they're too scared to get started, is just go for a walk, go on Amazon, buy a vest, walk with weighted vests. Like that's a great start. So, to drive me forward, it's just that I don't want to die young and I want to die strong. And it's important to me. So I eat healthy. I was a nutrition coach for years. I mentor gyms and their nutrition coaches. I believe that nutrition is just as important as fitness is. And so um, that's my motto is I'm a huge proponent of eating right, protein, carbs, fats, minimally processed foods, little to zero alcohol, and working out.
Yeah, 100%. You can't, saying you can't outtrain a bad diet, or abs are made in the kitchen, right? That's the foundation here, right? It's so much easier to consume the calories, consume bad calories, to consume large amounts of calories with such small amounts of food, especially nowadays with all the processed stuff, that you could work out for 24 straight hours and be able to eat that in an hour, no problem. Like that's why the nutrition portion is super important, and even just starting with that. But moving every day too is like, those two are the two main things. But if you can just do those two things every day, you're going to see the results.
Yeah.
So somebody who's trying to get started, maybe they have the business side down, they have their real estate business, they've been neglecting their health and fitness because they've been so focused on building up the business. And you kind of alluded to it, like time is an issue. What would you give somebody who's trying to build a health and fitness routine? Like, what first steps would you say, like, this is where you should start?
Yeah. I think number one, you need to time block your calendar, right? It's hugely important. I put my workout in my calendar every day, and I put my drive time to and from. So if I'm going to the gym, I put my drive time before, I put my drive time after. So those times are blocked out in there. That's huge. And if you're starting from zero, talk to your friends, find out what gyms they go to, find out what they're doing, and just get started, right? Just say, hey, like, I'm struggling. I don't know where to start. Can I come along? Can I come with you? And go, right? Don't overthink it. That's huge, right? Overthinking, yeah, it's gonna suck walking into the gym for the first time. You're gonna be sore for 3 weeks. Like that's just part of it. But don't overthink it. Just go and know that you're improving your health one day at a time, right? And if you're in a situation where you don't have friends that are working out, or you don't have that, like I said before, walk, just start walking. Block it out on your calendar to walk for 30 minutes at a time and start from there.
Yeah, 100%. It goes back to community. That helps for sure. I like what you said about time blocking too. Treating your workout, even the commute, that's what people kind of forget too, but treating that like a meeting, right? If in a W-2, if you have a meeting put on your calendar, you're not finding an excuse out of it because you have to go to it, right? You have to attend this meeting as part of your job. You get paid to go to that meeting. So treating the workout just like a meeting or an activity that you have to do, like, that's going to be super important to hold you accountable, right, personally. And then having the group of friends going to the same gym as them, you're going to be more likely to go. If Heather said, if you said, I'm going to go at 6 a.m. tomorrow, and I said, sure, I'll go with you, I'm going to be less likely than when that alarm goes off at 5:30 to go to the gym to find an excuse to not go, because I know you're going and I don't want to let you down. So finding that accountability, the support system, the community, and then time blocking and working with them is great advice. And I love that.
Yeah, I find that we'll let ourselves down so much, but we don't want to let other people down. And I think that's so sad, right? And so I always encourage people to find an accountability person, because I think that really helps.
100%. The self-negotiation to like get out of something is so much easier, but knowing that you have somebody there that's going to be like, yo, why didn't you show up, or what happened to you? You know, you just don't, you don't want to let somebody else down. Like you said, it's sad that we will let ourselves down so much easier, but
Mhm.
sometimes you just have to take whatever, you know, natural instincts you have and just work with what you got, and finding that accountability partner I found is super helpful as well.
Exactly. Yeah. Yeah.
Awesome. So, you know, you've gone through this whole journey, right? You've built this nice habit, and you know, you've done a lot of different things in health and fitness. So you've done the nutrition, you've done it yourself, you've helped other people do it. What are some of the challenges that you faced personally that you had to overcome when it comes to building these good habits, routines, and all of that?
I mean, time, right? Like work time. I've got kids, they've got multiple sports. I'm constantly like they're my number one. And so fitting something in that I feel like is a personal thing and maybe a little bit selfish is hard. And so those are some of the obstacles that have come into play, right? With gym ownership, when I owned a gym, it was such long hours and I had to miss so many things. And so that was kind of something that I had to weigh in, you know, what's more important, and how do I make all of these things happen in my life, you know? And so that's been, I would say, the most challenging thing is balancing the personal aspect with the time for work.
Mm-hmm. And it sounds like you've had to, you know, because you've had to sacrifice stuff, right? It's just being, you know, communicating that, hey, listen, I got to miss this for X, Y, and Z reason. You know, the gym stuff happens, but it sounds like you're kind of realize that you're balancing that, you're figuring it out, kind of like I said, time blocking and making sure that everybody's aware. This is what I'm doing, and you know, you mentioned that you feel bad kind of going to the gym and sacrificing maybe some other time with your kids, right? I know I deal with that too. But you know, at the end of the day, you can't help other people if you don't help yourself first. Like being healthy and happy, like you said, you want to live to 125. Awesome. You're gonna have great grandkids that you're gonna be able to see and be a part of because you've had to sacrifice a little bit of time now for that longevity down the road.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, and that's just been the biggest thing, the biggest challenge, I would say. And obviously like business owner things and the growing pains of owning a business and the constant the clients dealing with the public, right? And then dealing with a staff, like those were all challenging. But the time is your biggest asset, right? It's the only thing in our lives that we can't get back. And so that's why I place such a huge emphasis on managing it.
Mm-hmm. Definitely. So, speaking of time management and all that stuff, right? Relating the health and fitness side to the business side, right? I think there's a lot of parallels to real estate and owning a business. You know, with we talk about time blocking, we talk about overthinking things, and you know, trying to know everything before we jump into it, community and all that. So, on the real estate side, obviously you had that business for CrossFit gym, but real estate business side, like what are you doing on there? What does that look like for you?
Yeah, yeah. So, when I started getting into real estate and I did the whole Bigger Pockets boot camp thing, I met Molly Tennant and she was starting a transaction coordination course called Top Tier TC. And so as soon as that came out, I jumped on it. I'm very analytical. I'm very type A. My goal was to be a real estate investor in the creative finance space, but I knew nothing about those types of contracts or those types of deals. I used to be an agent years ago, but it was traditional. Everything was traditional, right? So I needed to learn this other aspect of owning real estate. And there's no better way than seeing all the contracts, right? So I jumped on that. I took that course, and in that course, I met two like-minded ladies that are now my business partners in our transaction coordination business called the TC Collective. Rinda Emick and Daniela Devine were part of Sub 2 for about a year before I kind of came into the mix, and they had some established relationships with different wholesalers they were working with, and that prompted them to take the top tier transaction coordination course as well. And we found each other in there. Rinda and I found each other through health and wellness. She used to be kind of like an integrative nutrition coach and sell some products related to that. And Daniela just popped out to us because of her strong business acumen. She's very well spoken. She's very smart. She ran a commercial flooring business with her family before this. And so we all had business as a background and then some different aspects that were just really appealing to each other, and we just ended up starting this business. And so we do transaction coordination, and we've just recently branched into being fractional COOs and operators for busy investors running their real estate businesses. And we've taken our experience from past businesses and being a TC and helping them and applying it to theirs. And so that's been really rewarding. We've just been doing that over the last couple months, and we've got a couple clients now that we're helping, and we're making waves. I mean, it's super exciting. Both Rinda and Daniela are real estate agents. So Rinda's a residential agent, and Daniela is a commercial agent in California. And so everybody's got real estate experience, and we all have business experience. And so it's been great for the investors that we're working with. They all need different things, and we kind of divide our different skill sets into who's helping which investor with what part of their business and what pillar. And that's how we move forward with helping them. So it's been great.
That's awesome. So it kind of came back to community, right? Jumping into a program and meeting people through that program, and that community you're supporting, you're meeting other people. And, just like health and fitness and CrossFit, the community is what kind of drives you and how you meet other people.
Big parallels, right? Big parallels.
Mm-hmm. So for those people who don't know, what does a transaction coordinator do? How do you handle stuff and all that?
Yeah, sure. So a transaction coordinator steps in once a contract has been signed by a buyer, and we will come in and make sure the contract is filled out properly, make sure it reads how that buyer intends it to, meaning, is everything in that contract like you want it to be? Like, all this verbiage sometimes gets very confusing, right? We check for spelling errors. We check to make sure the contracts are complete. We help on the buyer side a lot. We also help with wholesalers who have, gotten a house under contract and they're assigning it to somebody. We help with private money loans, short-term EMD, anything related to a real estate transaction. We can help. And our basic role is to make sure everything in the contract and the paperwork reads correctly. Everybody understands what is going on. And then we'll be the contact with title and escrow and closing attorneys, sellers, agents, if they're involved, to make sure that the transaction runs smoothly, all the documents are getting prepared properly, and that communication takes place between all parties. Towards the end of the contract, getting the keys, making sure sellers have all the information filled out so that the buyers know where the lockbox is and the utilities are, anything to do with similar to a traditional transaction, but usually creative sales.
Okay, cool. And, you do a lot, right? So why specifically would a real estate investor want to hire a transaction coordinator, right? You obviously are doing a lot, but is there anything specific that might help them out even more, right? They could do it themselves, right?
Certainly, just like you can mow your own lawn, right? So definitely, right? And a lot of investors choose to do it on their own, and I think that a lot of them can and are capable of doing it. It just comes down to people's personality and volume, right? There's only so much communication that one person can take part of. And if it's an investor who's doing a lot of transactions and a lot of deals in a month, and they want to turn to the next one, and they don't want to have to consistently worry about following up with title, following up with attorneys, answering questions, then they would hire a TC to help them with those. If it's an investor who is doing 1 or 2 transactions a month, and it's their only gig and they've got time, once maybe they've gone through one and hired a TC for one transaction, so they kind of learn the process, they'd probably do it on their own, right? But if they're really interested in scaling their portfolios and they're really interested in moving forward and driving their business to gain more revenue and get more properties, it's in their best interest to hire somebody to help with all that communication and paperwork.
Yeah, 100%. And for me, that is worth, I wholesaled for a couple of years, and I did all my own paperwork for a while, and I can do it. I'm an analytical person. I'm detail oriented, but man, did I hate dealing with paperwork and all of the communication between seller, buyer, title, escrow, all of that stuff. And when I was wholesaling, I was doing it all on my own. So I was doing that, when I had a property on a contract, neglecting all of the leads that I was, that were coming in. And therefore I finally get through the transaction, and then I had to go and kind of get that system start going again. So it took me a little while to figure out that having a transaction coordinator was just like, hey, here's all the documents, here's all the information, like tell me what else you need. And that just seeing the documents go out, DocuSigns, and seeing the emails come back and forth, and just kind of overseeing and see what's going on, seeing if I need to jump in anywhere. Most of the time everything was smooth sailing and it was great. So it was just, like you said, coming down to saving time and being able to scale up, right? It always comes down to time. How can I utilize my time to the highest and best value?
Yeah, no, I totally agree. I worked with a wholesaler for the first time on a transaction, I think back in February, and he'd never had a TC. He was the actual wholesaler and wasn't my client, but he was a very, very nice wholesaler, and he was kind of handheld the seller the whole entire way. It was a sub-2 deal, and I was working with a investor buyer. It was his first transaction, and the wholesaler was like, okay, so the contract's completed. I'll open escrow. And I'm like, no, I'll do that. He's like, wait, what? You do that? And I'm like, yeah. He's like, I've never worked with a TC before. Like, I don't even know what you do. And he was like, I am never doing another deal without you. It was crazy. I mean, he was so surprised at everything that we did. So yeah, it was great.
Yeah, it's worth it. And they can even save, the money just from checking things over, right? There's been so many times you get a HUD and you're looking it over and it's like, wait, what is this line item here? And it's like, boom, like if I had done this myself, I wouldn't have checked it that thoroughly. And that can sometimes save more than what the TC costs outside of just time, just pure money right there.
Oh yeah. I mean, we've saved people on HUDs like $3,000-$4,000,
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
I mean, a lot of investors will balk at the cost of a TC initially because typically they're going to be anywhere between $600 to, sometimes $1,500 and more, depending on the services that they hire you for, right? Mm-hmm. But in the end, once they've had a TC once and it's been a good TC, they're like, yes, I understand now.
Right. Like you said, you can mow your lawn, right, if you wanted to, or landscape and all that stuff. I could do it. It's going to take me time, and I'm going to have to put in the work, and it's probably not going to look as good, right? And so it's going to be nice to just be able to come home to my freshly mowed lawn and freshly landscaped lawn and not have to do any work, right? I mean, it's the best thing. So to have to do that when you're trying, and when we're talking different scales, right? Lawn and then like real estate, there's a lot more money in real estate. So if you can utilize that time in real estate, paying somebody for their services, they pay them what they're worth, it's definitely worth the expense and the relationships that you get.
Yeah, I agree.
And then so as a TC, right, you're dealing with wholesalers, you're dealing with buyers. So you're getting to see like who are the main buyers, who are the wholesalers. So you're getting, potential leads and deals through that, I'm sure, to some aspect.
Yeah, definitely. We'll have opportunities if somebody's EMD lender falls out or private money lender falls out. If we are private money lenders themselves, which I am, or are investing, like all of my partners are investors themselves. So then that provides us opportunity as well if we choose to take part in it.
Awesome. Yeah. So, and you also mentioned, so outside of transaction coordinating, you guys are doing, fractional COO stuff. So I've heard the term before. I don't really know what it is. So could you explain to us kind of what that is, what that looks like, and what you do as part of that?
Yeah, sure. So basically we'll step into an investor's business and we'll help them run the back end of it. Every client is different, right? So one of our clients, he's starting multiple different businesses, all related to real estate, like a cleaning company, a property management company, and then he's working on his personal brand. So he wants to be a consultant. He's got so many years of multifamily real estate experience, owning over 200 doors himself, apartment buildings, renovating from the ground up, but nobody knows it because he never talked about it. And so he had to get a Facebook page to join Sub2 back in December. And so that's where he's at. So my specialty in this relationship is building up his personal brands and his business brands like Instagram, Facebook, LinkedIn, all those things. He's acquiring properties. So we've got one of the girls on our team working with wholesalers to get him properties. And we have the other girl on our team working on his operations, meaning we're helping him with his short-term rental management software, working with the CFO in his business and the guest management, and just kind of cleaning up the back end and making sure everything is running smoothly. The other investor that we're working with is completely different. They have midterm rentals, and they've got a couple different businesses, and they have one email address, one bank account, everything's all going into the same thing. They don't know how to manage their email. They don't know how to manage their property. So we're stepping in and we're sorting everything out. We're getting them a bookkeeper. We're getting them, a property management system that's going to help with communication and email communication with their guests and streamlining that, excuse me, completely different than the other investors. So basically we do an interview, find out what they need. The three of us girls get together, produce a bid for them and break down their business and kind of look in and let them know what we see needs help. And we present it to them and we go from there.
Wow. That's super cool. I've never seen that, never heard of that. So it's really, really cool how you can kind of do all those little things. And so it's definitely good to know, what that is. So, you work as a team, the three of you, and how, obviously you guys were friends before you kind of built any official relationship. How did you kind of figure out and work through who does what and how are we going to organize this thing, as you were building it and becoming kind of more official partners?
Yeah, to be honest with you, the first client in our meeting after we met with him for the first time and we were sitting down to decide what he needed, we broke it down and we had these three things that he really needed to work on. And we just kind of looked at each other and we're like, I'll do that. The other one's like, I'll do that. And then she's like, I'll do that. And so that's how we've handled it moving forward. Those have been our pots and those have been our kind of pillars that we help every client with. And we've stuck to that.
Awesome. So, we talked about some of your habits for fitness. Now, what kind of habits are you focused on or actions are you focused on, daily, weekly for the real estate and the business side?
Yeah. So it's a little bit more challenging because it's new to me, right? I've only been in sub 2 since December and I've only had this business for such a short time. And so it's almost like starting over as a fitness client and a gym owner, right? In the sense that my daily structure is different because I am still also a business mentor for gyms around the world. I teach them how to run nutrition programs and in their gym. So I block out time for that each week. And then I block out time for my other business, the TC business. So every single week we have a meeting, the three of us, one on Monday. And now we've started one on Friday where we're actually going to do like open office hours where we sit on Zoom and we work with each other. To build out the different pillars and just to provide some more structure for ourselves around these COO clients. We were able to hire somebody. So we hired an assistant TC. We meet with her every single Wednesday. So that's time blocked out. And then I time block my schedule for CEO work every week, right? And then also for working on the TC collective. So social media and branding for that, developing SOPs for the employees that we have and that we intend to bring on. So we want to be able to hire 5 additional TCs by the end of the year. So we're upgrading our SOPs, creating Loom videos, how-tos, what to do, all those kinds of things. And all those things are time blocked on my calendar, time to work on each of those businesses. And so that's how I am keeping track of my time. And then I also block my family time in there as well.
Awesome. So it's nice, I guess, that you guys are COOs in other people's businesses. Now it's easy kind of for you to build up and, operate within your own business, which is nice. But ultimately it comes down to what we've been talking about, time blocking, setting things aside and not just leaving it up to, I'm going to get up and figure out what I'm going to do each morning. It's like, no, let's have a plan when we go into it.
Yeah, we have a plan and we have a big 3 every week. Like I personally have a big 3, like I'm going to get these big 3 things done every single week. And then from those 3 things, I break down the 3 things I need to do on a personal level daily to get those things done. Yep. And so that's kind of how I prioritize my tasks.
Yep. Perfect. And 3 is the number I've heard too, right? That's 1 is like not enough. Like you have plenty of time to do more than that. But like if you do more than 3, if you're doing 4 or 5, then you're all over the place and it can become
you are. Yeah, exactly. Yep.
Yeah. So what are, what's your business goals and your personal goals when it comes to real estate and business for the rest of the year?
Yeah. So for real estate, I am just getting into private money lending. So I've self-directed some money and my account there is almost ready. So I would like to loan out some money and I'd like to become a private money lender. That's important for me. And I don't know why. I'm just really drawn to that. And I want to have 4 rentals by the end of the year. So my goal is to get 4 this year and 4 next year and then kind of see where I'm at. I have 1 under contract now, so I'll have my first one. It should close here any day now, which I'm super excited about. It's in my hometown and my nephew's renting from me. So there's very little fear of, is it going to rent out? Like, am I going to be able to do this? Like, so So that's happening, and I'm super excited about that because it just kind of solidifies that, I've set these goals for myself, and now I'm not just talking about it. I'm actually doing it, because that's huge. You can talk about things for so long, right? And it's the people that actually do things that make change. And so I've done it, and I've seen the change, and that's great. For the TC Collective, it's funny. We know that we want to bring on 5 TCs by the end of the year. And we know now that we really love this fractional COO role, and that we can actually make change in somebody else's business. And so that's hugely important to us. But over the course of the next 3 weeks, we've actually set meetings once a week to discuss where that's going to go and how far we want to take that. So, there'll be big things from us. We don't know exactly what that's going to look like, but we have time blocked out on our calendars over the next month to kind of figure that out. We do know that we're going to be creating some online courses and doing some social media things for some, people that want to dive into having some fractional COO services, but they're not quite ready to pay the price yet. And just some things that they could do on their own that might actually save them time and set them up for success. So we wanted to develop some of those online things for them to do too. So that'll be part of what we're incorporating into our COO business.
Wow. Yeah, that's a lot of stuff, but that sounds amazing. And you have the team to do it, and the action, the confidence to do it, and then setting aside the time. And I think everything that you've said pretty much this whole time all comes down to helping people, right? You said, I don't know why, but I feel strongly about private money lending. It's coming back to helping people, right? I want to help people fund their deals, and you want to help people do the transactions, have the right paperwork, and you're through the, help the CEO stuff, the videos, you want to help them learn without having to pay the price, right? It all comes back to helping people. And, the more people you can help, the more value that you can provide, the more opportunity that comes your way, right? Leading service.
Yeah, we totally believe in that, right? Just like it's one of those things when you look at the sub 2 community, and it's hard to explain, I think, to people if you're not in it, but there's so much help in there, right? And in this space, in this real estate space, unlike the gym space, where I could probably tell anybody how to run their gym business, from the time they open the doors to the time they close them, exactly what to do and when, right? With all these different pillars in the real estate space, I can walk into somebody's business and I can see the holes and I can fix certain things, right? But there's still so much more to learn for me, right? And I look for that opportunity, and I look to work with people that help me learn those things. But in turn, I want to be able to gain that knowledge so that when there's somebody new coming in, just like I was coming in 6 months ago, that I can help them just like they helped me. And that's really important for me, because I know how it feels to feel lost and like to not know where to start. And so I want to be able to provide that value too.
For sure. And, and it's funny that when you talk about sub 2 community, looking at it from the outside, it's like, that seems kind of like a cult, and I hear that about CrossFit all the time too, where it's like, until you're in it and you see the help that people want to give, right? I mean, in the CrossFit gym, the people that get the most, cheers and encouragement are the people that are finishing last in the workout, right? Nobody cares about the first place finisher. Everybody wants to support, the person that needs the most help or the newest person, right? That's the way sub 2 is. And from the outside, when you see that and don't understand really what everybody stands for, it can seem a little coldish, right? Everybody talks about how great Pace is, and he's such a go-giver, and he is, right? And it just seems like all of these people are like praising this guy, right? And just like CrossFit, everybody's praising CrossFit, and it's just like, because everybody's there, they have the same values, they're all trying to do the same thing, right? They know where they were when they first started. So just combining both of those, the community and the help, is it can be weird looking from the outside, but once you're in it and see the support, it's like, okay, I get it now.
Yeah. I think one of my biggest challenges is to get my husband on board with this. Like, if you could just help me look for properties, but he's like, "Oh, you're on one of your Zooms again?"
My wife's the same way. Yep. She's like, I support you. Whatever you want to do, I'm good with it, but I don't really care. It's like, that's fine. I'll take the support.
Exactly. Yeah, exactly. Yep.
So I like to ask a couple other additional questions, try to kind of keep the same questions to a bunch of different people, kind of see their responses. First one, I'm a big reader. And I think books are a great way to learn from somebody who's kind of taken 10, 15, 20 years of experience and kind of put it into a couple 100-page book and learn from them, right? From not making the same mistakes. So what are like 3 of your favorite or most impactful books that you've read?
Sure. So Building a Story Brand by Donald Miller. I love that one. I read that when I first started gym ownership, not first, probably like 5 years in. And it really helped me, for lack of a better term, if you know Donald Miller, clarify my message. And so, yeah, that's a big one. Atomic Habits. I mean, lots of people have read that book, right? I love that one. And then I don't know how many people have read this one, but Soundtracks. It's a book about overthinking by John Acuff. I think that book is huge. Like that really hit home because I'm a huge overthinker. I still am. But one thing that resonated with me with that book was to have I don't know what he called it, but it was like a marker. It was just like something that you identify and that you kind of look at to help yourself stop overthinking. Right. And so, that book was great.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And, Donald Miller, I didn't even hear about him until I saw, the list of Squad Up. And so I was like, oh, let me see. I wanted to like learn about all the speakers before I went. And his presentation and all that was one of the like most mind-blowing things. It was like, this makes complete sense. This is going to be so helpful for just, like you said, clarifying your message and how to get people to want to look into your stuff and buy your stuff. And the structure of it is just, it's so smart and simple and great. And then, the other 2, John Acuff, he's a funny guy on Instagram. If you follow him, he's, public speaker, author, but he's a character. He's always got a little, humor in all of his stuff. And it's pretty funny. He's a sarcastic dude.
Yeah. I like him. So those books have been great for me.
Awesome.
For sure. Yeah.
So if you had to, start all over with your health and fitness journey, right? And start fresh, brand new, right? Maybe whatever, you had to start over. What would be the first thing that you do to kind of build back up your health?
Yeah. Just knowing the mentality that I have, and I'm pretty brave. I probably would start CrossFit. Because if you look at it, like you do everything, you have cardio workout, you lift, you do body weight stuff. And I think, I could look at that and think, wow, like I'm getting all of it in here. It's all encompassing. And I think that would appeal to me for sure. I would definitely would.
Yeah. You don't have to think about what to do because they
Nope.
program it for you. You get the support from everybody else around you.
Yep.
And you get a little bit of everything. That's the CrossFit. Let's be specific at not being specific, right? You can be the best runner and the worst lifter. You just need to be okay at doing everything, which is the best. Yes. I don't want to specialize.
Yeah. And I don't like to, like, after working all day, I don't want to go in and think about what work I'm going to do. I just want to go in and be able to work out, and I want to have somebody tell me if I'm going to hurt myself and if I'm doing something wrong. And that's what a CrossFit coach does. And so I love that.
Yep. 100%. Awesome. Well, where can people find more about you, the TC Collective, all your services, and engage with you just in general?
Yeah. So the TC Collective, we have a website, and we obviously have Instagram. So Instagram is the tc.collective. Our website is the tc-collective.com. And then me personally, I'm Heather, BRIL, Kiddoo. That's my Instagram handle. So that's where you can see my Instagram.
Perfect. Yep. And I'll include all of that stuff in the show notes so people can just click and check you guys out. TC services, Fractional COO,
all of it.
Health and fitness, whatever you want. She does it all. It's awesome. Well, Heather, thank you so much for joining me. It's been a pleasure. I really do appreciate you coming on.
Thanks, Zach.